And welcome back. We're with John Brash from Brash Brands, talking brands. And we were talking there, John, in our second segment about the skills of clients perhaps could be improved. I always think that they should be underpinned, though. I mean, we were lucky, both you and I went to universities. I happen to have studied something very similar to you. And a massive number of people now in the UK universities doing these subjects. But less so here. Well, I suppose they all go to foreign universities in Europe and United States. Do you not think, though, there should be some form of educational underpinning here?
I think it started. I think, you know, a few years ago I did sort of quite a few interventions with some of the Dubai colleges and the Sharjah University, and they have got programs in place to actually start, you know, really sort of enhancing the creatives, because one of the challenges in this market is to get real good Arabic talent in the creative industry. I think if you look at it, a lot of probably for the last 10 years, a lot of the creative talent from this region came from Lebanon, which was a more, again, mature market, more mature education system for media. But the challenge with that is that a lot of the creatives that come out can only really understand advertising. And if you want them to try and understand brand, it's a different world altogether, because it's far deeper. It goes far more, and so you need to get them to probably think more. So in a way, even when we take on young talent who may be out of university or 2 years out of university, we almost have to retrain them to start thinking in a very, very different way. I think programs, again, there's a huge opportunity here. I don't look at this as a problem. I look at this as a potential solution. If you look at moving forward, that creative and marketing and media can all be starting to mix together with business. So what you probably could do is create programs here that are actually very, very progressive in comparison with the rest of the world. So I think there's opportunities here to actually create new things.
It must be very difficult working in a multicultural environment too. Are you finding that that is difficult, a challenge, or perplexing? How do you see things?
Well, when I first came, I thought it was extraordinary, because when you work in London, it is multicultural, but when you work in our industry, it's not. It mostly tends to be British, European, or Americans. When you come to a region like Dubai, you have. I worked at before I set up the company, we had 40 staff and 28 nationalities, which I think is very, very refreshing.
And that was when you were at Landor Design, yes. Okay.
And what's very interesting is really you have to understand that fusion and blending can actually really enhance creativity. And I think it's quite interesting that a lot of British designers come over with the British style, and you can spot the British style straight away. And the French have a style. And it's quite interesting when you get here, it's how you can blend them together to get some really quite interesting stuff. For example, a lot of the French designers and Arabic designers are actually in a way more creative, they're more artistic, they're less trained or less rigor. So when you blend them together, you can get some absolute dynamite stuff that's actually richer than, say, a traditional UK corporate designer.
But do you think you can ever successfully bring together the paradigms of the systems and processes of London and this artistic blend and melange and approach here in Dubai?
Well, that's what we're trying to do, and I'm not saying it's easy, but we're actually really getting some dynamics. So when you put a team together and you can mix these teams, you get something that can be very, very special. And as I say, something that's maybe not expected, because a lot of the identity work you see throughout the world is pretty predictable. There is not that many breakaway brands anymore that's out there. You know, BP, great brand, that was done 10 years ago. But there's not that many great brands that are being created just now, and I don't know if that's the way the market is.
Well, what do you say of people, to people who kind of deride what you do? And this, we can track back even to the UK. I remember Mrs. Thatcher famously draping her handkerchief taken from her handbag, the famous handbag, over the newly branded tail fin of the British Airways planes when they had that attempt to go, I suppose it was multicultural or culturally diverse. I'm not quite sure what it was. And the people, who were very sincere people, I remember seeing them being interviewed on television at the time, were justifying, I thought, quite well what they had done, but they became the subject of much derision. So is this something that's happened here in this market yet, or are we some way off that?
I think there's been a lot of lessons learned from that. I mean, that case in particular, I think to your point, I think it was a great audacious piece of branding. I think the biggest problem there is they failed to connect with their two key stakeholders, One was their staff and one was their frequent flyers. And because they did not connect with two key stakeholders, the whole thing bombed. But as a concept, it was a wonderful concept, creating truly the world's world airline. Now, Emirates have a chance probably to become the world airline. They have the potential, but from a brand perspective, that's something they need to focus on because of the nationalities and location.
And what do you say to the Naomi Kleins of the world, the naysayers, who say no logo, no brand?
Well, I mean, it's just an interesting point of view. To me, brand is absolutely critical. Any company, you know, if you look at value of companies, the companies that invest in brand, who put brand at the centre of their business strategy, are the ones that can maximise the value of that brand through differentiation, trial and choice. As a consumer, when you go to the supermarket, be it Union Co-op or Spinneys or wherever you go, you see FMCG products on the shelves. Now, which one do you buy into? That's because that brand promises you something. It differentiates from its competitors in there, and that's why you choose it. And it could quite often be that the brands you choose are actually more expensive because strong brands can charge a premium. If you look at Armani, if you look at brands like Vertu, if you look at brands like Rolex, can all charge more for their product because of what that brand promises.
So is a brand a promise?
A brand is a promise. And the challenge is some brand managers or some companies don't really quite understand that. And really you have to promise and you need to deliver on that promise. And quite a lot of brands over-promise. And I think going back to your early point about the outdoor real estate hoardings in Dubai, there's a tremendous amount of promises being made. And they're using the same words like premium, luxury, lifestyle. What does that actually mean? And I think really you've got to look really closely and say, if I'm going to promise something, I have to deliver that promise. So if I'm not going to over-promise and over-deliver, I mean, that would be a far more refreshing approach. So promise is absolutely critical to the success of a brand.
Because what we're seeing at the moment is a lot of verbiage. It's just words, an assemblage of words.
Absolutely.
Some of which are really quite random.
It is, it's random, and again, you look at how much money the clients are paying for the agency, and then how much money they're actually paying for the media. Is probably millions, and they're not getting really any value out of that. And I think that, again, you need to take a step back and say, what are we actually trying to do here? Are we really premium and luxury? If everyone's saying it, how do we say it in a different manner? If you look at a brand like Emaar, and Emaar build communities, and their point of differentiation is when they're building a development, they actually think about the end users. They think about a clinic, they think about the schools and nurseries, they think about the retail, they think about the hospitality. So when you're buying an Emaar property, you're actually buying into something that's been thought through, whereas maybe some other developers are just building flats and apartments. But you might find you need to take a taxi to go to a laundrette.
Indeed. All right, John, well, thank you very much for coming in and explaining a little bit about what you do on today's Face-to-Face, and we wish you all the very best for the future of your own company, Brash Brands.
Thank you.
And that's all for today's Face-to-Face. Don't forget, you can watch this show again here on the telly in a couple of days. And of course, we're also online. The entire archive of all our shows is now on johndeykin.tv, my own brand. Until next time we meet, however, here at City 7, from me, John Deykin, and the entire team, it's goodbye.